The damn door hadn't budged in weeks, but today of all days, Jace Allen managed to yank it open just as a woman in 4-inch heels tried to shove through from the other side. She stumbled forward with a startled gasp, her glossy black handbag slipping from her arm. Jace caught her elbow instinctively, steadying her before she could fall face first into the grimy hallway of his apartment building. "Whoa, careful, this thing sticks. Been meaning to fix it," he said, brushing his oil-stained hand on his jeans. The woman straightened, adjusting her sleek blazer and blinking like she wasn't used to being touched by strangers or maybe just by mechanics who smelled faintly of motor oil and desperation. Her eyes, a piercing gray-blue, met his with a flash of something unreadable. "Thanks," she said coolly. "I didn't expect the door to fight me. Yeah, well, it's got a personality, like everything else in this building." He offered a half-smile, then shifted awkwardly. "You lost." She looked up at the peeling paint on the ceiling, the flickering light overhead, then down the hallway toward the buzzing vending machine. "You could say that." Before she could add anything else, a small voice shouted from behind Jace, "Daddy." "You're late." Jace turned just as his 6-year-old daughter, Mila, came barreling out of a nearby apartment door, her curls bouncing, backpack slung over one tiny shoulder. "Sorry, Peanut," he said, scooping her up with one arm and resting her on his hip. "Miss Carter kept me a little late at the garage." Mila looked at the woman. "You're pretty," she said matter-of-factly. The woman actually laughed. It was soft, surprised, and real. "Thank you," she said. "You must be Mila." "I'm 6.5, Mila informed her, then pointed at her dad. "He makes the best pancakes." Jace cleared his throat. "We should get going. Gotta get this one to her grandma's before I head to work again." But the woman surprised him. "Actually, I'm here to see the building owner. I think I got the wrong address." He frowned. "You're looking for Mr. Donnelly?" She nodded. "He moved out 2 months ago. Building's in foreclosure. You're about 6 weeks too late for a business deal here." Her face fell ever so slightly. "Interesting. Sorry, you came all the way here for nothing." "I guess I did." She glanced around, clearly uncomfortable. "Not exactly what I expected." Jace looked down at Mila, who was now playing with the zipper on his jacket. "You okay getting to Grandma's on your own, champ?" Mila nodded. "She's waiting outside." He set her down and handed her her lunch bag. "Go on, she's in the car." "I'll be right behind." Mila gave him a quick hug and ran off. He turned back to the woman. "Look, I don't know what you were hoping to invest in, but this place isn't worth the paint on the walls." She tilted her head. "And yet you live here." "I don't exactly have options." He paused. "Sorry." "That came out harsher than I meant." "No offense taken." She extended her hand suddenly. "Kiera Langston," he blinked. "Wait, Langston like Langston Tech," she smiled faintly. "You've heard of it." "You're the CEO." Guilty, he stared. "So you're a billionaire." She laughed again, genuinely amused. "I don't usually lead with that." "Yeah, I wouldn't either," he muttered. "Might get mugged around here." There was an awkward beat of silence. Then she said, "Do you know anyone who could help me find a new property? Something with mechanical space. I'm looking to invest in a local community startup." Quietly, he hesitated. "I mean, I know a guy and I've worked on a few renovation crews. I could help if you're serious." "I'm very serious." He rubbed the back of his neck. "All right then. I'll text my buddy and see what he's got." "I don't text," he blinked. "You don't text?" "I hate texting," she said simply. "Call me old-fashioned." He pulled out his phone anyway. "You still got a number?" She reached into her bag, pulled out a sleek black card and handed it to him. Just her name and a number in silver print. No title, no company name, nothing flashy. "Call me tomorrow," she said. "If you're not too busy making pancakes." He watched her walk away, heels clicking down the hallway like she didn't belong anywhere near this building. And yet, she'd smiled at Mila. She hadn't run when she saw the broken light fixtures or the cockroach that scurried across the floor near the wall. That night, after dropping Mila off and putting in a 10-hour shift at the garage, Jace lay in bed staring at the card on his nightstand. Kiera Langston. A billionaire, in his building. Asking for his help. Hell of a day. He called her the next morning. She answered on the first ring. "Jace Allen," she said. "I was hoping you'd call." He chuckled. "You say that like you weren't sure." "I wasn't. Most people are intimidated by money. I'm intimidated by bills, not billionaires." She laughed. "Good, let's meet for coffee." They met at a small cafe near downtown. She was already there when he arrived, dark jeans, clean blouse, no security detail, and sipping from a plain white mug like she didn't own half the city. "You're early," he said, sliding into the seat across from her. "I don't like wasting time," she replied. "Neither do I." "So what exactly are you looking for?" She leaned in. "A garage, something I can turn into a community innovation hub. I want kids from neighborhoods like yours to have a shot at building something, like I did." He blinked. "You grew up like me?" "Worse," she said. "But that's a story for another day." They talked for over an hour about buildings, business, the city, and then somehow about Mila. "You're raising her on your own?" she asked softly. Her mom split when Mila was 2, couldn't handle the pressure. "I don't blame her, but yeah. It's just me." Kiera looked at him, something soft and real in her expression. "She's lucky to have you." He glanced away, clearing his throat. "I don't know about that." "I do." They met again and again. Over the next few weeks, Kiera and Jace toured properties. They argued over square footage and zoning laws. She showed up at Mila's school play uninvited. She brought a brand new backpack for Mila just because, one night, after a long day of property hunting, Jace dropped her off at her car. It was a sleek black Bentley, parked like it belonged on a magazine cover. "You never mentioned the car," he said, raising a brow. "You never asked." He stepped closer, his voice quieter now. "You're not what I expected." She looked up at him. "Neither are you." And then, before he could overthink it, he kissed her soft, sure, like something that had been building since the moment he opened that stubborn door. When he pulled back, she whispered, "I was hoping you'd do that." He smiled. "I was afraid you'd fire me." She laughed. "You're not working for me, Jace." He looked at her, his voice low. "Then what am I doing?" She reached up, brushing her fingers over his jaw. "Falling for me, I hope." He didn't hesitate. "Too late." "You're quiet," Kiera said, her gaze steady as the city lights bled through the windshield. Regretting the kiss, Jace rested his hands on the steering wheel, fingers flexing once before he turned to look at her. "Not even close, just trying to figure out what this is." She tilted her head. "You mean us?" He nodded. "I've been under the hood of 1,000 engines, but this whatever we're doing, it's like fixing something with the wrong tools." She gave a small breath of laughter. "Maybe you're just not used to someone wanting to build with you instead of around you." "And you are?" he asked. "I've spent the last decade building everything alone," she said. "It gets exhausting pretending that's enough." They sat in silence for a moment, the kind that didn't feel empty. Then Jace leaned back. "There's a property in Edgewater, old auto shop. Needs work, but the bones are good." "Let's see it," she said. He glanced at the clock. "It's almost midnight." "Perfect time," she said, already reaching for the door handle. "You don't even have a flashlight." "I have a phone, and heels." "I'm not made of glass, Jace." He gave a low laugh, shaking his head. "All right. But if you trip, I'm not explaining that to your board of directors." She closed the door behind her, and the sound echoed down the street like a challenge. They pulled up to the shop 15 minutes later. The building hunched beneath a busted neon sign, windows boarded, and a rust-covered garage door sagging on one side. Kiera stepped out of the car without hesitation, gravel crunching under her boots. "You changed your shoes?" he asked, surprised. "I planned ahead." He raised an eyebrow. "You planned for midnight property tours." "I planned for everything," she said, stepping forward. Inside, the air was heavy with dust and leftover oil. Jace flicked his lighter to illuminate the space. The walls were lined with old tool cabinets, and a torn poster of a '78 Mustang clung to one corner. She ran her hand over a cracked workbench. "I like it. You like a condemned garage with no wiring and a hole in the roof. I like the potential." He watched her walk the length of the shop, her fingers grazing surfaces like she was memorizing them. "You didn't ask how much it costs," he said. "I don't care what it costs." He paused. "You talk like money isn't real." She turned to face him. "To me it isn't, but time is, and this place already feels like it has stories worth investing in." He leaned against the wall. "You always this poetic about real estate." "Only when I'm standing next to someone who makes me think about more than square footage." His breath caught a little at that. Outside, a siren wailed in the distance, then faded into nothing. She sat on a crate, legs crossed, watching him. "You were going to take this place yourself, weren't you?" she asked. Jace hesitated. "I thought about it." Figured I'd fix it up, start my own shop, but then Mila needed more time and the bank needed more money. You ever think about trying again? He looked at her for a long beat. Every damn day. She nodded slowly, then stood. Then let's do it. What? I'll buy the property, she said. You fix it, we run it together. I put up the investment, you bring the work. He stared at her. You're serious? I don't say things I don't mean. He folded his arms. Why me? Because you're the only person who hasn't tried to sell me something since we met, she said. And because I don't want to do this alone. He pressed his lips together. You really want to run an auto shop. I want to create something that matters. And if that means learning what a carburetor does, I'll figure it out. He laughed, the sound bouncing off the metal walls. You're out of your mind. I prefer ambitious. He stepped closer until there was barely space between them. You know what happens if this goes sideways, right? I end up with a garage I don't know how to fix and a man who kissed me like he meant it. He searched her face. I did mean it. Then say yes. He looked around the broken room, then back at her. All right, he said. Let's build something. The next morning, he found himself staring at a contract on his kitchen table, Mila humming in the background as she colored in a cereal box maze. Kiera had dropped it off with an attorney's card and a note that simply read, "When you're ready," he called the number. By noon, everything was signed. That afternoon, he brought Mila by the shop. She ran across the cracked floor, spinning in circles and asking if she could help paint. She's already got ideas, he said as Kiera walked in with 2 coffees. Good, she said. She's our first consultant. He handed her a folded piece of paper. Blueprints? Color schemes. Kiera laughed. She's efficient. She takes after me. Kiera glanced at him sideways. I was hoping she took after me, he grinned. Too late. The place transformed over the next few weeks. Kiera showed up every morning in jeans and rolled up sleeves, sweeping floors and hauling supplies like she'd been doing it forever. Jace found himself watching her when he thought she wouldn't notice when she was laughing with Mila, or when she was bent over a clipboard, hair tied up messily, lips pressed together in focus. One evening, as they finished laying the tiles in the front office, she leaned back against the wall, breathless. I haven't worked this hard in years, she said, brushing a smudge of paint from her cheek. Feels good, doesn't it? It does. He sat beside her, legs stretched out. You ever think about slowing down? She turned to him. Only when I'm around you. He looked at her, really looked, and something in his chest shifted. You're not just buying a building, he said softly. No, she said. I'm hoping to earn something I can't buy. He reached for her hand, threading his fingers through hers. And for the first time in a long time, Jace felt like maybe, just maybe, he wasn't fixing something broken, he was building something new. The grand opening was only 4 days away, and Jace had never known exhaustion like this. His hands were raw from sanding counters, his back ached from crouching under the new lift all morning, and his brain hadn't shut off in what felt like a week. But when he stepped into the freshly painted front office and heard Kiera humming off-key while rearranging a row of donated toolkits, something in him eased. You know they're just gonna get moved again when my guys start actually using them, he said, dropping a box of spark plugs onto the counter. They're not for your guys, Kiera replied without turning around. They're for the kids' intro class. He raised an eyebrow. You're really doing that? Already lined up 2 instructors. Saturdays only. We'll rotate them through the lifts and the diagnostics bench. I even got a sponsor for materials. He leaned against the doorframe. You didn't tell me that. I wanted it to be a surprise. She turned to face him, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek with the back of her wrist. Not everything has to be a fight for you, you know. I'm not fighting, he said carefully. I'm just not used to people doing things like this. Without asking for something in return, Kiera's gaze softened. I'm not asking for anything, Jace, except maybe a little credit on the chalkboard wall. He huffed a laugh and crossed the room. You can have the whole damn wall if this works out. It will. We've done too much for it not to. He looked at her for a long moment, then said, You're different lately. Her expression flickered. Different how? Less guarded. You let Mila paint your boots with glitter glue last week and didn't even blink. She's persuasive. You didn't even pretend to be annoyed. Kiera tilted her head. You think I'm stiff? No. I think you were scared to breathe wrong around people who expected you to be perfect. She didn't deny it. You think I'm scared now? No, he said honestly. I think you're finally yourself. She looked down at the floor, the corners of her mouth twitching up. Funny. I've spent years building a company from nothing, but this place, this garage, it's the first thing that's ever felt like mine. He reached for her hand, brushing his thumb over her knuckles. It's ours. The sound of hurried footsteps interrupted them. Mila burst through the door, her cheeks pink from the cold and a sheet of paper clutched in her hand. You have to see this, she said, waving it toward Kiera. I thought you were at your grandma's, Jace said, frowning. She brought me early so I could help decorate. I made a flyer. Kiera crouched down and took the paper carefully. You designed this. It's for the kids' class. I put your name and Daddy's name at the bottom, and I made the car look like Lightning McQueen but with flames. Kiera laughed, genuine and light. It's perfect. I want to give it to the mayor, Mila said seriously. Jace blinked. Why the mayor? Because if he likes it, maybe he'll come to the opening and tell other people. Kiera glanced up. She's got marketing instincts. Better than our consultant. I don't have a consultant, Jace said. You do now, Kiera replied, ruffling Mila's curls. And she works for cookies. That night, they stayed late. Kiera strung lights across the bay windows while Jace installed the last of the new signage. Mila fell asleep on an old couch in the break room, curled up under a blanket Kiera had brought from home. Jace stood outside the garage, arms crossed, staring at the glowing letters above the door. Allen and Langston Auto and Innovation. The paint was still drying, but the name was real. Tangible. Kiera joined him, her hands shoved into the pockets of her jacket. I didn't think you'd agree to that name, he said. It's the truth. I thought you didn't care about credit. I don't, she said, but I care about permanence. If I'm going to build something that lasts, I want my name beside yours. He looked at her, chest tightening. You sure about that? She didn't hesitate. I'm sure about you. The wind picked up, tugging at her hair. He reached out without thinking, brushing it back behind her ear. Do you ever think about what happens after this? He asked quietly. Yes. And I want to stay, here with you, with Mila. He stared at her, heart thudding against his ribs. You're not doing this out of guilt, right? Or some need to prove you're not just a billionaire who bought her way into something real. She stepped closer. I'm doing this because I fell in love with a man who fixes broken things without asking for thanks. And because Mila told me last week she wants me to be her second favorite grown up. He blinked. She said that, she did, and I take that very seriously. He laughed, pulling her into his arms. Kiera. She looked up at him, eyes searching. Tell me you feel it too. I've felt it since you showed up with that ridiculous purse and told me my door needed fixing. She smiled. It did. And now I'm the one who's stuck on you. She kissed him then, slow and certain, like she was anchoring herself to the moment. Like she wasn't going anywhere. When they broke apart, she whispered, I've never had anything that felt like home before. You do now, he said. You both do. Inside, Mila stirred and called for her dad. He gave Kiera's hand a final squeeze before heading back in. Kiera stayed a moment longer, watching the sign sway gently in the wind, the lights casting soft golden halos over the pavement. She wasn't just building a garage, she was building a life. And for the first time in years, she wasn't afraid of where it might take her. The mayor showed up after all. Jace hadn't expected it. Definitely hadn't planned for it. But there he was, standing beneath the freshly painted sign with a photographer trailing behind and a city aide scribbling notes like every handshake was a headline. Kiera didn't miss a beat. She greeted him with the same calm confidence she'd worn the first time she stepped into his life. Except now, there was sawdust on her jeans and grease beneath her nails, a detail that made Jace oddly proud. He adjusted Mila's jacket as she clung to his side, her eyes wide at the sight of the crowd gathering near the ribbon stretched across the garage entrance. There's more people than at my school fair, she whispered. That's because your flyer worked, he said. You ready to help cut the ribbon? She nodded solemnly. I practiced with Grandma's garden scissors. Jace laughed under his breath, then looked up as Kiera made her way back toward them, her expression unreadable. You all right? He asked. There's a reporter from the Tribune, she said. He wants a quote from the co-founder. I told him to talk to you, he blinked. Me, she nodded. You built this just as much as I did, probably more. He hesitated, then glanced at the crowd. I don't know how to talk like you do. Then don't, she said. Talk like you. The ceremony was short. Mila got to hold the scissors with both hands while Kiera knelt beside her and counted down. When the ribbon fell, the crowd clapped, and someone yelled something about free oil changes. Jace wasn't sure if it was a joke or a request. Afterward, people wandered the garage, admiring the polished floors, the freshly mounted tool racks, the community corner with 3 laptops already set up for digital diagnostics tutorials. Kiera introduced a few people to the instructors she'd brought on, while Jace gave an impromptu tour to a local teacher who wanted to bring her students by next week. Later, as the sun dipped low and the food truck pulled away, Jace found Kiera alone in the break room, staring at the framed photo on the wall Mila, him, and Kiera, taken the day they finished painting the outside of the building. "You didn't tell me you hung that up," she said. "I didn't ask," she turned to him. "You still hate asking for help," he leaned against the doorway. "I don't hate it, I just forget sometimes that not everyone disappears when things get hard." Her voice was soft. "I'm not going anywhere." He crossed the room, reached for her hand. "I believe you." Outside, the sign buzzed gently in the cooling air. Allen and Langston. It didn't feel strange anymore. It felt like something earned. Kiera looked at him, something unreadable in her eyes. "I have to go back to the city for a few days," he stiffened. "Something wrong?" "No. Just board meetings. I've been avoiding them long enough." He nodded slowly. "You coming back after?" She didn't answer right away. "I was thinking," she said carefully, "maybe Mila and I could come with you." She blinked. "You want to?" "I want to see the world you came from," he said. "The one you left for this." She studied him. "It's cold, it's sharp, and it's full of people who wouldn't understand why I'd trade a penthouse for a garage with a kid's drawing on the wall." "I don't need them to understand," he said. "I just need to know you're not walking away from that world with unfinished business." Her voice caught. "You really mean that?" "I want to know all of you, Kiera, not just the part that fits here." She stepped into him, wrapped her arms around his waist. "Then come with me." "Just for the weekend." He rested his chin on her head. "You'll have to warn the doorman. I don't exactly own a tie." "I'll buy you one," she said. "But only if you let me pick the color," he groaned. "Please don't say pink." "No promises." They left the next morning, Mila chattering the entire train ride about elevators with buttons and what kind of cereal billionaires eat. Kiera didn't correct her. The penthouse was sleek, all glass and brushed steel, with a view that made Jace feel like the entire city was something you could reach out and fix if you just had the right wrench. But Kiera, barefoot in leggings, making coffee in a kitchen she barely remembered how to use, made it feel less like a fortress and more like a home. Mila wandered down the hallway, peeking into rooms like she was on a scavenger hunt. "Is this where you used to live?" she asked. "I still do sometimes," Kiera said, "but it's very quiet when you're not here." Mila frowned. "Do you get lonely?" Kiera nodded. "Sometimes." Mila reached for her hand. "Then you should come back with us." "Daddy makes pancakes on Sundays." Jace watched from the doorway, something warm and steady pressing against his ribs. That night, he stood on the balcony, the skyline lit behind him, and asked the question he hadn't planned to ask yet. "If I asked you to stay, not just for the garage, not just for Mila, would that be enough for you?" Kiera turned to him, moonlight in her eyes. "It already is." He pulled a small box from his jacket pocket. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't designer, but it was exactly her. She stared at it, breath-catching. "Jace, I don't have a yacht. I don't have shares in a tech empire, but I have you, and that's more than I ever thought I'd deserve." She opened the box. "A simple ring, silver band, no diamonds. I love it," she whispered. "You haven't even said yes yet," she smiled, eyes wet. "Yes." They returned home 2 days later, not to the city, not to the penthouse, but to the garage, to the girl who greeted them with a drawing of all 3 of them standing under the sign. And beneath it, she'd written in big, uneven letters. Family. Jace hung it in the front office, right next to the tools, right where everyone could see it, and every Sunday, without fail, he made pancakes. It was the first real spring rain of the season, and Kiera stood barefoot on the garage rooftop, lips parted as she tilted her face toward the sky. The city below shimmered beneath the wet glow, and the scent of oil and fresh asphalt rose with the steam from the streets. Jace stepped out behind her, holding a folded tarp in one hand. You're going to catch a cold. She didn't move. Then catch it with me. He dropped the tarp and walked over, wrapping his arms around her from behind. Her skin was cool from the rain, but her body leaned into his like it had known forever how to fit there. You've been quiet today, he said, pressing a kiss to her temple. What's going on in that head of yours? I had lunch with my attorney, she said. I signed the final transfer papers, he blinked. Transfer? I handed over control of Langston Tech. She turned to face him fully, rain streaking down her cheeks. I'm keeping my shares, but the CEO position is officially someone else's problem now, his brow furrowed. You gave it all up, she smiled. I gave up what didn't make me breathe, he studied her. You're serious. I'm standing in the rain on a rooftop in a borrowed hoodie. Do I look like someone clinging to a boardroom? He laughed softly, brushing a raindrop from her jaw. I didn't think you'd do it. I didn't think you'd propose in a penthouse, she countered, but here we are surprising each other. They kissed slow and sure, and when she pulled back, her voice was steady. I want to be here with you, with Mila. Fully. She was asking if you'd help her with her science fair project, he said. She's building a motorbike out of cereal boxes. I already bought the cereal, she said. And glitter paint. He leaned in, their foreheads touching. You're not running, not even close. 2 weeks later, they stood beneath a white archway in the field behind the garage, where the city's skyline peeked over the trees. The wedding was small, not because they didn't have people who cared, but because they only needed the ones who mattered. Mila wore a crown of wildflowers and insisted on holding the rings. Kiera's dress was ivory linen, simple and wind-kissed, her bare feet tangling in the grass. Jace wore a navy button-down and a watch that had belonged to his father, the only piece of jewelry he'd ever cared about until today. As the officiant finished, Kiera didn't wait for permission. She kissed him first, hands in his hair, laughter bubbling up between them. The guests clapped, but Mila's cheer was the loudest. Afterward, they danced on a wooden platform strung with lights. There was no band, just a playlist Mila had helped create, which included one song from every Disney movie she could name. Jace didn't care. He twirled Kiera as if no one was watching. She laughed, her head thrown back, hair flying loose. Later, they sat on the garage roof again, this time under a blanket, watching the lights below flicker on one by one. Do you ever miss it? He asked. The company, she said. Not for a second, he nodded. You're not worried about what people say, let them talk, she said. They'll say I gave up power for love, and they'll be right. He looked at her sideways. You don't think that's a cliché? I think it's the truest thing I've ever done. He kissed her shoulder. You're not scared of simple anymore, she turned to him. Simple with you is infinitely more than complicated without you. Mila called from the stairs, asking if they could roast marshmallows in the back before bed. Kiera stood and reached for Jace's hand. You ever think about what's next? He asked as they walked down together. She grinned. Retrofitting the garage to add a second bay, launching the scholarship fund, expanding the kids program, and maybe one day, he paused. One day, she stopped beside him, lowering her voice. Giving Mila a little brother or sister, his eyes widened. You serious? She nodded. I want this life, all of it. He kissed her again and again as the porch light flickered on and Mila tugged at their hands, marshmallows already in her arms. That night, after the fire died down and Mila was asleep with sticky fingers and ash on her cheeks, Jace carried Kiera upstairs to their apartment above the garage, the one she'd insisted they renovate together, the one that smelled like lavender and motor oil and home. She curled into his side, her breathing steady, and he whispered softly, You ever think about how none of this was supposed to happen? She kissed his chest. No, I think it was always supposed to. The city buzzed below, the garage stood quiet and whole. And in the small, sacred space between sleep and sunrise, they let go of every version of life that hadn't included this love. They never looked back. Not once.